Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Today I've only got two stories, but they're huge, starting with AMD backtracking on 400 series boards, but with stipulations, and 4th gen Ryzen was spotted with higher clocks. But first, check out the new Gamer Meld newsletter where you'll be kept up to date when PC hardware actually releases, as well as some great deals. Check that out in the description below. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, if you followed the channel, you saw the recent news that AMD will not support Zen 3 based 4th gen Ryzen on their 400 series motherboards, and that was obviously a huge letdown. Now, I will say that I was never sure that AMD claimed AM4 support through 2020, but with the motherboard support nearly being a rallying cry from AMD, I have to admit that I was disappointed. Well, I've got some great news as the company just released a statement today, and that's now changed. In the statement, which was given to Der Bauer, AMD makes it pretty clear that they've been listening to user feedback, which I have to admit is pretty refreshing these days. Anyway, they've decided to give it a shot. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't some stipulations. Actually, there's quite a few. For one, they say, quote, select beta BIOSes for B450 and X470 boards. That could mean some boards may not work, but we'll have to wait to see how that turns out. Next, the optional update will likely mean you'll lose support for some other Ryzen generations because there simply isn't enough ROM space. Next, they state that this is a one-way update, which is odd, but apparently you won't be able to flash your board back to supporting a chip that's since been deleted. This part also completely confirms Zen 3 Ryzen for later this year, which I'll get to more in my next story. Next, it sounds like you'll have to confirm you purchased a Zen 3 based processor before getting the update. I'm not sure how they'll manage that, but it's apparently so you don't mistakenly brick your board when it loses support for previous gen processors. The next point is pretty big as well. Apparently, some of the BIOS updates may not be ready when 4th gen Ryzen releases, which means you'll have to wait a bit before you can purchase or, well, use your new CPU. They're also guaranteeing that anything beyond Zen 3 based 4th gen Ryzen will not be supported on 400 series boards.
No, God!
They make that very clear. Now, with all of that out of the way, I will honestly say thank you AMD. This is clearly a big undertaking, and given some may not even be ready for 4th gen's release, I think it's clear they didn't plan on making this change. But they did. AMD listened to community feedback, heard everyone sigh when they got the news, and they're actually doing something about it. That's honestly a rare thing today. Most companies seem to have gotten to a point where they couldn't care less what their customers think.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
And I for one am happy that AMD did this. Obviously it is disappointing that they didn't in the first place, but still, this is a big change and certainly a welcomed one. Lastly for today, as 4th gen desktop Ryzen gets closer to release, we're finally starting to get some good leaks. This time it's a bit of a follow-up to my last video. In it, I went over the OPN list that was leaked by Igor's lab, all but solidifying the recent Renoir-based 4700G benchmark found just before it. This time, Igor's lab leaked an OPN list of AMD's Vermeer CPUs. For those who don't know, Vermeer is the codename for AMD's 4th gen desktop Zen 3 based processors, at least according to an older leaked slide from Informatico Chero. Now, that may seem like a leak based off of a leak, but remember that the slide also showed Renoir before it was announced. Of course, as always, it's good to still have at least some caution with these types of things, but it's no coincidence that more and more are coming as we get closer to the release, which according to the most recent rumors is in September. Anyway, back to the OPN list, we can see that it lists a few CPUs. First up, we have an 8-core 16-thread part, and what's interesting here is that according to Igor's lab, the numbers right here reference clock, with this 8-core 16-thread having a base clock of 4 GHz and a boost of 4.6. Now, keep in mind that these are likely engineering samples, so they can definitely have higher clocks in the final product. Either way, we know 4th gen Ryzen will likely get at least a small clock boost because that's 100 MHz higher than the 3800X in base and boost clock. Next, we have a 16-core 32-thread CPU with a base clock of 3.7 GHz and a boost of 4.6. That obviously makes it the successor to the 3950X, and when we compare them, the base clock is 200 MHz higher, while the boost is 100 MHz lower. Of course, once again, this is an engineering sample, but the fact that it's higher at all means that we should definitely expect next-gen Ryzen to get at least a small boost in frequency over 3rd gen. And coupled with the heavily rumored IPC increase, we should be looking at a pretty hefty performance increase overall. Fingers crossed. So while that does it for today, are you happy your 400 series board will live another year, or do you just want Zen 3? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe. And as always, have a great day.